Welcome to the Public Works March 7 committee meeting. And it is about 5:01. We'll get started. I'm joined by Bernie Flynn and Sheila Vaccaro. First item on the agenda, call to order. Number 2, comments, suggestions, petitions by residents in attendance regarding items not on the agenda. Hearing none. Move on to item 3A, discuss monthly reports, starting with Public Works.
Good evening, Don Edwards, Public Works. You have my monthly report. I'd like to highlight 2 items on here. The first is we're working towards planting 100 trees. We have our list. We're getting so. So yeah, we have a list, and we're waiting for it to be finalized. But I'm hopeful we're going to have 100 trees planted in the springtime. So that's one thing I'd like to mention. The second thing is I'd like to present our paving for this year, and I think Bill has some graphics that he's going to show. And if you could show the one that shows past paving first, that'd be good. And if not, I'll just go with whatever you put up there. This is the one I asked you to talk to Nick. No, this is the one. Hey, Nick, can you help him with the?
Don, while they're looking for that, wonder if you'd highlight one of the issues you mentioned to me earlier, which I thought was a great find for the alleys, finding more liquid fuels allocated.
Oh, yeah.
For that.
Yeah. So yeah, as far as the alleys are concerned, they're not liquid fuels eligible unless they're 16 feet wide or wider. So thanks to Don Anderson, he showed me some old cards in our map room, and had the widths of all of our alleys, and I was able to go through there, and I found about a mile of alleys that were 16 feet wide. So reached out to PennDOT and asked them for how we can get them added to our liquid fuels list, which means money. So that worked out nice. So credit to Don for identifying those cards.
Don.
Okay. All right. So this is the paving that's been done in the past, going back to 2006, and quite a bit of paving that's been done. And I would say, just in general, I think over the years that Westchester's roads look very good compared to other places. So, but this graphic shows you the roads that were paved over the past 15 or so years. Go to the next one. Utilities paving. Okay. Yep. Okay. So this graphic here is showing, as you're well aware, Pico and Aqua are all over the place. And so there will be either paving or a fee in lieu of paving from Aqua and Pico. And so we need to meet with them, and we need to do a walkthrough on the different roads and talk about if it should be a full road width or not. But these are the roads that I expect something from Aqua and Pico. All right.
John, quick question on that. So High Street.
Yeah.
Since it's PennDOT.
Yeah.
Will we give them the money to it, or can we pave it when we want to with fee in lieu?
Okay. With that being a state road, I think that we have to defer to PennDOT as far as how the paving now. Knowing PennDOT, I would expect them to want full width for that paving. And after we talked this morning, I did send an email to the PennDOT rep and asked him for the schedule for High Street. So I'm waiting for a response. And so, yeah. I guess finally, the liquid fuels paving for 2023. Top one, probably. That one there? Okay. All right. And this shows graphically what we're planning to do for liquid fuels paving this year. It's about $500,000 worth of paving. And these roads, how the methodology for picking the roads was relying on our public works supervisors who have a ton of experience. I mean, they intimately, live these roads. So this is what they recommended. That was how we chose these roads. I guess final, if you want to show the spreadsheet. Yeah. Okay. So you saw graphically what it looks like. These are the names of the roads that we have in there right now. And once we finalize the list, we'll do some base repair on these roads in-house, save some money. And then once the base repair is done, we'll put it out for bids, or maybe concurrently at the same time. We'll put it out for bids and get a contractor to do these roads. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
Next to the last graphic that we had up there, it looked like that we were doing Spruce Alley, or that maybe it'd been a different street.
I think it's one road off of Spruce
One
Alley.
road off?
I
Okay.
think so, yes.
So
Union,
that'd be Union then, right?
yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mike Finley, wastewater superintendent. The employees at Taylor Run disassembled and inspected a secondary return pump. The pump was cleaned, painted, and replaced, and seals and bearings were replaced before it went back online. I think we have pictures of that. And we also we completed our PADP laboratory audit, which is every 3 years. That took like 3 months to get through. Pretty grueling. Goose Creek, they did their check valve preventive maintenance. And then they had a pump electrically tripped out while cleaning it at the pumps at the station in the plant. The pump was removed, cleaned, and inspected. Upon inspection, the power cord was found very worn and unsafe. The pump was sent out to be thoroughly diagnosed for internal electrical damage. The other 2 pumps in the pump station were inspected as precaution, turning up another degrading power cord. Both cords are being replaced. And their polymer mixer motor was replaced with a rotor and stator on the circulation pump. And the mixing tank on the soda ash system was cleaned out. It had a few pieces of pipe replaced. That's pretty much it. All the plants are running, meeting our parameters.
Did we get the doors and windows?
Yes. They were there.
It's complete.
They're there today, finish it up. Yes.
Excellent.
The plywood's
It
off
was
the
a very
door.
good article in the Daily Local. And of course, Bill Ritu made sure he took the wrong picture. It showed that we didn't have glass or windows or in.
He took like 20 pictures and that one ended up and only Mr. Flynn noticed it. Called me up. Yeah, there it is. There's our pump. We had an H missing off of our sign at our entrance one time. I came down and said, you're missing an H on your. So we had to go out. We had to get one custom made at our machine shop. So that was it.
Thank you very much.
Director of the Parks and Rec Department. From my monthly report, I want to touch on a couple items.
First off, we're not that far away from event season. The Turk's Head Music Festival is less than 3 months away. And in between now and then, we've got the annual Easter egg hunt down at Everhart Park, which this year I'm doing something a little different. I'm turning it into like a mini camp expo. So all the parents that come there can kind of see the offerings we have from the camp directors that we hire. Make it a bit more of an event as compared to just the egg hunt. We do have a food truck coming. We have sponsors. We have prizes. It's just to make it more than the 15 minutes that is the egg hunt, going to make it a little something different. Turk's Head Music Festival, we had over 70 bands apply to be in the event this year, which is probably the most in my tenure here. I think it's because it's the 40th anniversary. People want to get involved with that. They also know that if they're involved with that event, they have the opportunity to take part in other events we do here at the Borough. Two other items I want to touch on are we're this close to the RFP being absolutely ready for the recreation plan / parks master plan. That's the other email attachment I sent you, Bill. I uploaded it to Teams. I've gone over this thing numerous times. It really hits what we want. The classification of parks, what we have at our parks, what do we want to do with our parks, short term, long term, medium term, and it's going to involve a lot of public input, both from a meetings perspective. There'll be at least 2 public meetings that the consultant will conduct with the borough at large. We may break that down into different parks. If you're interested in these 6 parks, come to this meeting. If you're interested in these 6 parks, come to this meeting. And it's also going to have a website content as well. The consultant will be drafting up a survey that we'll be putting out to the public and really trying to get to the details of what it is that we want and what it is that we can afford over that same course, the short, medium, and long term. I've already spoken with 3 different consultants in putting together the RFP. I'm heading to the Pennsylvania State Parks and Rec Society Conference on March 20th through the 22nd, and there'll probably be at least a dozen there. So I'm hoping at least before I leave to go to that, we'll have it dialed in, ready to go, and I can pass that information out to those folks, and they can hopefully put together a qualified RFP to get back to us. So if there's any questions on that in particular, I can, this is still draft form, so I don't want to share it completely publicly yet, but it's the nuts and bolts of it are there. I've been looking forward to this for a while now. I think it's going to help us better budget. It's going to help us kind of work with our friends groups moving forward. I mean, we all know of the big 3, but there are 12 parks in the borough that need assistance, that need some love. It'll help us better understand where the dollars are going to be coming from. That's going to be another key component too. From the consultant's perspective, they're not only going to be our consultant, they're going to help us write the grant from the county that's going to pay for their services. And that's a 50-50 matching grant. Again, we have $100,000 budgeted. I don't anticipate spending anywhere close to $100,000 if we receive the grant, which I really believe we will. The last thing I want to touch on is the disc golf. I went over this last time with everyone. I maybe didn't do the greatest job when I was trying to explain it. I'm not a disc golf player. I'm just looking at new creative ways of using our parks, and especially the underutilized areas of our parks, in this particular case, mainly Hoops Park. Let's see if this works. There we go. I went to 3 different area parks, Kerr Park in downtown, East Bradford, Mount Bradford Preserve, and Shimona Creek Park, which is really difficult to get to, but a very nice park. Not only did I explore those parks, I went to look to see what they have in common with Hoops Park. And also I wanted to talk to the users at these parks, whether it be the disc golf players or just people in general using the facilities. And I also spoke with the people in my role at those townships. The first one I went to, and I'm sorry, I shouldn't have chosen red, but the Mount Bradford Disc Golf Course, it's about 2 years old, and Rich Pfeiffer, who's their Director of Property and Recreation, pretty much in a nutshell said that, yes, they had some complaints initially early on, but they were mainly because people weren't used to users using those areas of the parks. And that's kind of dissipated since then. The biggest issue you had was a Frisbee going in someone's yard. There was no reported incidents of injury or property damage. And I understand that can be a pain. And I'm not pushing this to have disc golf. I'm trying to push this, like I said, to bring something new to one of our parks
And in my work with the Chester County Disc Golf Alliance, Hoops Park's the only park that we have that would accommodate. The other parks are not large enough. The next place I went was Kerr Park in Downingtown. I know many people have been to that. Their park is similar to Hoops, obviously bigger, but in the way that they have it laid out, it intermingles amongst the amenities that are already there. And the young lady I spoke to, who's the leader of Dark, again, you can see pretty much the same thing, that the folks, they get along. I mean, everyone's out at the park to try and have fun and do what they do without intruding on someone else's fun. I'm not looking to do that at Hoops Park either. I want to make sure that we're using the park, especially the underutilized of the park, for something other than just trees growing or plants or bushes. The last place I went was Shimona Creek Park. This is the most, I guess, comparable park to Hoops Park. Very similar size, a lot of the same amenities. And the gentleman I spoke with, Jeff Gautier, over at Euclid Township, he's been the superintendent of parks for 39 years. I won't read all of that. It's in the presentation. Same thing. Once they established the park, or established the course within the park, and they made some adjustments, they've had nothing but positive results. I was at this park after 2 failed attempts to try and get there. And I spoke to several different users, and the same thing. The one person I spoke to didn't even know there was a disc golf course there. He's like, I see these baskets, but I didn't know what they're for. He's just out walking his dog. A family of 6, mom, dad, and 4 kids, all playing disc golf. Here's where I think I didn't do a good job explaining last time. In these dotted areas are walking. So just say for the first hole, you go here to there, and then you walk back to here and you shoot there. And the main reason we did that is because you have trees blocking the disc from going into the street or potentially someone's yard. Then you would go from that goal, walk around to here and shoot to here. And then you walk to this tee and you shoot to here. And I know this was a concern because of the playground, but you would actually walk. You're not throwing a disc towards the playground, you're throwing a disc away from the playground. And then these aren't the most heavily utilized areas within the park, but in order to get 9 holes, we try to use the entire park. And like I said, the original investment from the $20,000 that was originally allotted for capital projects revolving around adult recreation, this is about $4,000 to $4,300. That involves the goals. And again, we agreed not to put in tee boxes. The tee boxes would be a 2x2 paver that would give you an initial place to start as a marker and a small sign that says, this is where we're going. This is what your hole looks like. Almost like you're opening a scorecard in golf, just so you can see where you're going. So in closing, part of what's coming up a little bit later, the Friends of Hoops Park came to the Rec Commission meeting a few weeks ago and said, hey, we want to put this non-invasive, all-native garden, if you will, in this location. I said, that's fine. We can move our tee to accommodate you guys. I mean, that's part of what this whole process would be is I want to work with the Friends. I work with all the Friends groups. I want to make sure that we're combining our efforts to make the parks better, make the parks more user-friendly, and to provide some new forms of recreation that maybe hadn't thought of before. And then the one study, I think it was you sent it, Bernie, the risk of injury. There's a risk of injury with any sport, with any activity, but just for comparison's sake, and they're really not comparable. But if you were to get hit in the head at a baseball going 60 miles an hour, your HIC, which is your head injury criterion, is 241 to 246. If you get hit in the head with a disc, it's 0.6 to 11.5. So the two, according to this study, aren't really even comparable. And the nicest part about this is for the first 6 months, year, whatever it may be, we're not going to cement these in the ground. We're going to use what basically look like large pieces of rebar that are bent over that would attach into the ground that hold these securely in place. So if we have to move them, we're not jackhammering concrete. We're only using these small 2x2 pavers. So if we have to move them, it's relatively easy to move as well. There's disc golf in a nutshell. So again, I'm just trying to provide you guys the information. I don't know if I did a very good job of that last time.
Thank you very much.
Storybook land. Where does that?
Not
fall?
happening. No, they didn't get the
Not
grant.
happening After all that excitement.
Yeah, there were 12
To
municipalities.
learn to read.
Yes. There were 12, I meant to mention that. Thank you, Bernie. There were 12 libraries in the entire state that got part of that grant. And unfortunately, we were not one of them. I think Victoria may have. Cool. Thank you.
Lisa Dorsey, Ward 7. I have spoken to some of the residents in Ward 7, particularly around Hoops Park. They have raised some concerns, as well as the Friends of Hoops Park. And I'd like to suggest that maybe we wait until the master plan for the overall parks is completed before we implement this plan for the disc golf. I think what's unique about Hoops Park from the other parks that have been shown is this park, Hoops Park, is surrounded by residential homes where, and we have a disc golf course less than 5 minutes away from Hoops Park in East Bradford. But Shimona and East Bradford, they don't have homes like directly across the street from the course. So I'd like to suggest that council hold on implementing the discourse until we have the master plan for all of the parks. Thank you.
Mr. McCoy,
Yes.
to Ms. Dorsey's point, looking at the layout right there, you know, I'm one of the ones that are very leery about throwing things. And Ms. Dorsey has a nice dog, and maybe she'll like to pick up a disc and run with it and see what happens, see if they can catch them. But by this diagram that Mr. Karowski showed us, even though there are houses along those two sides, or three sides actually, none of the discs are really going towards, you know, the houses, and there are buffers all around the perimeter there. But of course, we want to do whatever the residents that in that area that use that park, you know, we want to make sure we satisfy them as well. Okay?
Agreed. Thank you. I think Ms. Dorsey had a good point. I mean, we have this RFP coming out. I assume that'll be by the end of the year, a report be in place. So I think it's a good idea. Thank you.
Statement. I appreciate this effort very much. I think that we need to respect the residents, of course. However, I think the resistance to something different than what is currently there is just a natural thing that all people do. When we're asking for things to be changed, it's scary for whatever reason. You know, I walk my dog there, or I play with my kids there, or I play baseball there, and I don't know what disc golf is. It's just a new thing. I'm really excited about it because I want to see activities for older people, meaning 12 years old and older. I think that's really important to our borough. I think that giving activities that people can enjoy who are over the age of 12, that are safe and that are easy and accessible, is a wonderful thing. So I really want to see these kinds of things happen, whether it's a disc golf or a skate park. And I know that there's resistance to all of these things, but those people matter too. Those teenage kids, those adults, and our parks cannot be reserved for only dog owners and parents of small children. So I want to share with more people. So I want to keep moving in this direction. And I know there's going to be resistance, but I'm going to keep asking for more of it. So thank you.
Thank you. Next up, engineers report.
Lillian DeBaptiste, Ward 7. I would also like to affirm what Councilperson Dorsey said, simply because there's so much going on in all the parks. I think that, to your point, Councilperson Vaccaro, it is important that we put the right activities in the right parks, and we certainly could use more activities. However, Hoops Park is already an example of poor planning when they put the softball field and the parking lot on the street side. And even though the balls are going away from Ashbridge Street, they come over the street and into my property, and they come on my property. So, I mean, that's already an example of poor planning on the part of whoever put the ball field and the parking lot there. So I don't think, even though it's a good idea, and I love the idea of disc golf, whatever it looks like, I feel before we start talking about placement of it and what park it's in, that we really need to look at the master plan of where things are going so that there is equal activities being expanded around the borough.
Thank you. Mr. Williams, you have the engineer's report?
Good evening. This is, as you recall, this report is a work in progress, and this month and moving forward, there'll be a cover sheet that summarizes all of the engineers' reports, which will be attached to in one big report. So I'm just going to hit some of the highlights here. Most importantly, I think for all of us who work in the building, is we opened the roof bid last week. That's all teed up for council's approval this month. We have 3 new grant applications underway. A tennis and pickleball court rehabilitation grant that's due in April. Taylor Run stream restoration, that's a stormwater project and stream restoration project along Hannum Avenue. That's Taylor Run Creek there. We applied for a grant in December. We're going to repackage that and submit to another grant application. We haven't heard from the first, but we're looking to create a funding stack for that project because it is a big number. And also Gay Street Open Air Marketplace. The CRP grant is due in April through Chester County. And so we've created a sort of a phase 1 project, which we're going to pursue that funding for. Downingtown Pike, our lead project, we shared with council some disappointing news in terms of the scale of a change order required to get that project done now that PennDOT has moved the goalposts on us. If there's a silver lining, it's that if you recall, the winner of that project made a mistake on their bid, which they decided to honor. So with the change order, we're still less than we had budgeted. We're still less than the second lowest bid. This is a project that predates COVID. It was hibernating for a long time, and we're really just striving to get to the finish line on this. Our High Street and Minor Street intersection improvements, we have a bid package completed that's being reviewed by Chester County. That project's being funded by a grant from the county. They need to review the bid package. That process has taken longer than anticipated. So our timeline for bidding that and awarding that bid has been bumped a month at this point. We're still anticipate doing construction this summer, though. As you all know, we are transitioning our stormwater consulting to Remington and Vernick from Gilmore and Associates, and that transition is in progress and going as smoothly as they can. We got a lot of files handed over to us by Gilmore, which Remington and Vernick is now organizing and acting upon. And that also includes illicit discharge detection and elimination program and BMP inspections on private property. So a big scope of work there. Our PennDOT High Street Improvement Project, 2 relevant updates there. Remington and Vernick is pricing the upgrades between what PennDOT is going to do and what we would like to see done in terms of the streetscape. The other relevant occurrence there is the submission for 410 South High Street, which obviously includes a big streetscape project improvements. So we sent those plans to PennDOT for their review, and we're hoping that frees up a little budget for them to do other stuff on High Street. A couple land development reviews, 2 of which are on smart growth agendas. Engineers working on those. And then lastly, Greenlight Go. This is another project that we're really eager to complete. We had some change orders there, but thanks to the construction contract being less than we originally anticipated and the maintaining the split between match and the grant funding, the change orders haven't added any out of pocket to our expenses. So a little bit of a speed bump, but got those approved and looking forward to getting that project wrapped up as well. That, I'll take any questions.
Just one question. The High Street improvement, that includes the granite curbs, brick curbs, sidewalks, as well as lighting upgrades?
Our project?
That they're looking at, what would be the cost for,
Yes.
to do it separately?
Yeah, it's basically, brick sidewalks, granite curb, and lighting. Yeah, so they're pricing that out. We did a really rough back of the napkin calculation, and we're gonna have some professionals sanity check those numbers for us. That will give us also the basis to go back to PennDOT with an ask. We're hoping to schedule a meeting with Westchester University to talk about that, and also pursue grant funding that could supplement what PennDOT's spending on High Street.
Thank you. Any questions?
One issue, over the Downingtown project by Giant,
Yep.
the site has become dangerous. The orange fencing has fallen down, and the people that live in the apartment complex, if they're walking their dog at nighttime,
Okay.
they can make a nice little dip into the hole.
Okay.
So I know that they haven't been there in a long time, but somebody should go over there and make it secure,
Okay.
because it is dangerous from the street side as well as falling off the top of the property.
We'll get it done in the next 48 hours or so.
I just,
Yeah.
Just like the letter that was missing
Yeah.
on Taylor Run, I noticed that as well. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 4A. First action item, approve the bid for the roof repair replacement at 401 East Gay Street.
Thank you. What Bill has brought up for us is the bid tabulation presented to us by Pannoni Engineering. The low bid on this project is ARC Roofing with the base bid of $642,000, more or less, and $110,000 for the add alternate. The base bid is the replacement of the flat roofing membrane and about 1,000 square feet of wet insulation that happens to be right over one of our parking clerks in the office. And on the flat roof sections, and the add alternate addresses the leaking that's happening in our lobby area with the skylight system. We chose an option to replace the skylight system where we're asking the contractor to remove the glass, replace the gasketing system, and put in new glass in place and using the existing metal frame. The base bid engineer's estimate was about $420,000. The base bid add alternate engineering estimate was around $70,000. So if you're doing the math in your head, that's how much more, Bernie, over? It's 50%. And I think the only thing our engineer has to offer in this is that the market is unstable for pricing when they did the estimate last October. And we are 50% over. Now, keep in mind, we're also implementing the responsible contractor ordinance for the first time with this project. And it's impossible really to tell if what effect that's had on the bid, because we didn't bid it any other way than this way, because we knew going into the bid that it was going to be more than $250,000. So we've spoken at length with the roofer, the engineer, and staff's recommendation is to bite the bullet on this one and do the repairs that we need to do to make our roof watertight. And that's going to amount to $748,000. The way we propose funding this project is that we have $110,000 and 200 or so in a debt service fund. That money was originally borrowed in 2016. We're still paying on principal and interest on that bond. That was a borrowing somewhere north of $10 million, where the borough borrowed money to do the interior upgrades to this building, to purchase 4 fire trucks, and also do year one capital projects with the stormwater fund. So that all totaled about $9 or $10 million. Not all that money was spent. And it has been sitting and earning a low interest rate in an account ever since. Now, you can't take money out of a bond and use it for whatever you want. You have to use it for the things that are in the purpose in the ordinance that authorizes the borrowing. That's a check and balance on governments to make sure they do what they say. But we think, and the solicitor agrees with this, that since it was done with the intention of repairs to the building, we'd be using that money for repairs to the building, and it would be a convenient way to take advantage of $110,000 that is really restricted in its purposes. The remainder of the money would be taken up by what's basically left of our American Rescue Plan Act allocation, a total of $637,000. I knew this roof bid was coming. We knew it was going to be a big number because roofs leak and they let you know when they need to be replaced, and you can't live with a leaky roof for very long because it starts destroying things and ruining things on the inside of your building. But I had really hoped we might have been able to save some of this Rescue Plan Act money for next year's budget and our capital programming. But with this project and this need, that is the reality. If council so chooses to approve this project and award this bid to ARC Roofing, council will have appropriated all but $3,000 of the a little over $2 million that we received from the federal government as a result of the American Rescue Plan Act. That's a total of 31 projects that are all in process. We've completed about 7 of them to date. And we have an opportunity as we work through these projects to finish them at or under budget and free up some more money for other types of allocations. But I don't think there will be any large surprise or big present under the tree, so to speak, when we get to the end of that process. We have to, as a council, decide what we're going to allocate Rescue Plan Act funds for prior to the end of 2024. So we still have some time to get these projects done, see how we do, see if there's money left over, and we have until the end of 2026 to actually spend those dollars. That's where things stand on the financing side. I can do my best to answer any questions you have about the roofing side of this proposal and or get whatever questions you have tonight answered in time for next Tuesday, or possibly bring somebody in to help if you have more extensive questions. But I'd like to hear what your opinion is on this.
I understand what's going on, and I met with Mr. Metrick today to look over it again. And I brought a little small thing to his attention about the type of roof that we should color, that we should be using on the roof. Instead of a black roof, we should be using a white roof. And I don't know, it should not add any.
We specified a white mineral finish.
There you go. So that's, the EPDM is basically a rubber roof, and the white roof will give us the heat reflection. It should cut down the air conditioning costs in the summertime. So that's good.
Just one question. How confident are we with the 1,000 square foot of wet insulation? Do we have a unit price in for if it goes beyond that for that material?
There are unit prices in the bid for that, and also for any unforeseen problems that occur. If they take that insulation up and there's problems with the deck underneath, there's unit pricing for that. I'm
going to ask about the window. We're good that the leak is in the gasket and the glass and not in the frame.
The good thing about having a contractor on board who agrees to a contract that says the thing you're going to do is make the envelope watertight is if it doesn't, they're on the hook to come back and make it watertight.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have 3-0
Yes.
recommendation to council. All right, next item B, approve awarding the bid for the 2023 landscaping contract to JHL Landscaping for $47,710.
Yeah, we received 8 bids, and the low bidder was JHL Landscaping, a local company who currently has our contract. And after looking at all the bids, it's my recommendation that contract be awarded to JHL. And I wouldn't award it for the total amount. I would award it for the unit prices that are shown in the bid, because that's just an estimate as far as what we're going to need, that total amount.
I think you mentioned that this is 20,000, something less, and
Right.
if you could elaborate on the reasons and the additional work being done at the other parks.
Sure. Okay, so the scope of work changed from the previous bid, and $20,000 less is the amount for this contract. The 2 wastewater treatment plants were left off of the bid scope of work. As Mr. Metrick mentioned earlier, we have interest in doing long conversion projects over there. So that they were taken out. We also enhanced the scope of work. We had recommendations over the past 6 months about mulching, and that's included in the scope of work. 2 times a year, the contractor will have to mulch the vegetation, the leaves, the grass into the soil, like actually Mr. Friends has suggested. I took pretty much everything that he recommended. And one other thing that's different from the last bid was we simply said with the last bid, cut the grass. Well, this time it's cut the grass, trim the grass, clean up the grass, plus do the mulching. So I think we have a better spec, a better scope of work than we did the last time.
Thank you. Any questions?
I have one question that I've been in 2 of the parks when the mowing is happening and there are events happening. They're not major events, they're little events. Is there any way to sort of organize that so that
Yeah.
there's not so much overlap?
Yeah, I think if we talk to Mr. Korowski and we coordinate all that, I think we probably can do better.
Thank you.
Sounds like a 3-0.
Yeah, the only comment I have is that hopefully the guy riding the mower
Yeah.
will ride at 10 miles an hour instead of 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
When he's cutting, because most of the grass is ducking.
Yeah.
By the time he's driving over top of them.
Yeah.
Because and the parks aren't really getting a fair cut because they're going so darn fast. You know,
Okay.
it's slow it down a little bit.
Yeah.
That's
Cool.
my only comment on it, but I'm glad to see that, we're letting wastewater, go to natural.
Yeah. We'll keep an eye on that.
Public comment?
Don, I think you said the JHL.
Excuse me, Jeff, could you just name your?
Sorry. Jeff Bytel, 228 East Biddle Street. Don, I think you said that JHL was the winner. I'm looking down at the bottom where it says mulch and there's $0. Right. What's up with that?
Well, you'll see that there's another contractor did the same thing. So they are going to do it and they're not going to be paid for it. If they would have put no bid, then they would have been disqualified because they would have been non-responsive. So, yeah, so there's like one other, it was 0, another one's 800. So JHL is basically going to do that for free.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. 3-0. Item 4C, approve awarding the bid for the 2023 wastewater soda ash.
We received 3 bids and we checked the bids and the low bidder was responsive. And our recommendation is that the contract be awarded to Univar Solutions for the unit price that you see there.
Any questions? Sounds like a 3-0. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 4D, motion to approve proposed park improvements at Hoops Park.
Hello, Keith Karowski, Parks and Rec Director back again. The Friends of Hoops Park, actually originally January, then they came back this past month, had some minor park improvements. Bill, I have attachments to those guys. There you go. Very simple. They want to add an owl box, a screech owl box, a bat box, and a smallish size meadow at the northeast corner of the tennis courts. They will be doing all the work. They'll be paying for all the work. These are not major additions to the park. We wanted to make sure that we understood exactly what they're doing as far as the Recreation Commission is concerned. Recreation Commission voted 4-0 to approve. Don't really have much else to say about it.
Is the meadow a pollinator area or is it?
It's in there. It is.
I tried to read it and it had 32 different grass seeds.
It's an all native, non-invasive.
Okay. So does that fit everything?
I'm not sure.
I mean, look, I don't know what, I couldn't figure out what they were trying to tell us what they're going to do.
When we spoke about it at the meeting, Chris Puglisi with the Friends of Hoops Park, the best way he described it to me was all native, non-invasive. So I'm not a botanist. I don't know.
Wildflowers?
Yes, wildflowers. Again, it's going to grow similar to, I believe, what they want to do at the wastewater plants as well.
Okay. All right.
Will that need to be avoided by the,
Proposed disc golf?
no?
No?
Cutting grass, I'm sorry.
Oh, yes. No, there will be similar to what Everhart Park has around their small metal frames that would go around the outside of it, just to protect from mowing and pretty much saying, people stay out of here. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure. I'm around for the next one too. I'll introduce Jeff.
Rolling into item E, motion to approve Friends of Marshall Square Parks plan for tree planting in 2023.
Sure. The Friends of Marshall Square Park presented at the February Rec Commission a plan to, correct me if I'm wrong, 11 trees to be planted at Marshall Square Park. 9 are replacements of trees that have already come down or fallen down. Jeff can go over the details of those specific plans or specific trees, and they have a plan drawn up here for you to look at to see exactly where they will be going.
Jeff Bytel, 228 East Biddle Street, President, Friends of Marshall Square Park, and this is?
Ann Walters, 224 East Biddle Street, landscape architect.
Just a little background. Probably over about the last 3 or 4 years, we've lost about 7 trees in the park. 3 or 4 of them were really substantial sized ones. And we've kind of held off on planting of any new trees because we wanted to try to figure out what we wanted to do overall there because it is an arboretum, as you know. So we want, and there are some species now that are not doing very well in this environment any longer. So Ann, as a trained landscape architect, took a look at it, and she's here to explain what we did. A couple of the trees around the fountain were trees that we actually planted there like 6-7 years ago that just really underperformed, and we want to take them out and replace them as well. So Ann can fill you in on the specifics.
Hi, so actually we're planting 13 trees, new trees. And the trees will range in size installed at about 2-inch caliper, maybe 8 to 10 feet, depending upon the species. It varies depending upon the species. We're using native trees where possible, and also trees that would have been in the park or on the list of Humphrey Marshall, who established the book Arbustum Americanum, the first native book on American native plants. So we're confident in the species selection. We're, as Jeff said, the locations where the new ones will go were where we've lost things. And we'll enhance the fountain and add some shade at the playground. So we are looking forward to adding these new trees we've received. Did you say that we've received bids? We put this out to bid to 3 different landscape contractors, and we've received bids back. And we're prepared to proceed with the awarding of the contract based upon your approval, of course. And the trees will be maintained, watered for a year and guaranteed for 1 year, and then they'll be maintained in perpetuity after that, as part of the park fabric. So happy to answer any questions you might have.
The 3 trees in front of Mayor Norley's house, are they going to be street trees down the bottom of Biddle? Wait,
One is
one's in front of Mr. Scott's house, and the other 2 are on the Biddle.
2 of them are, well, one of them is replacing a maple tree that declined, and it will be a street tree. I mean, it's right at the edge of the park. The other one is another street tree, an oak, and another one is replacing a dead crabapple tree. So it's a flowering tree, and in the row where existing other crabs are. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just was worried about on the East Biddle side there, whether they were going to encroach into the street.
No.
Not my lifetime?
Not in your lifetime.
Thank you very much.
And I did want you guys to know that Friends of Marshall Square Park is paying for this project 100%. The only thing that we may ask of the borough, if they could help us out, is I know that you guys have a supply of gator bags. So if you might be able to, have some gator bags for us to use so that the contractor who's going to water can water with those gator bags. That would be helpful if you can do that for us.
As part of this work, not only do we intend to pay for all of the costs related to this, but, we intend to coordinate with the selected contractor to field locate each tree. So we'll flag those locations and make sure that we've considered the surroundings, the sidewalks, the existing adjacent native, the trees, anything that is in the vicinity, that'll all be in consideration. I mean, we tried to do that as part of the plan, but we'll field locate everything. And we'll monitor the installation and the watering through the summer and through the guarantee period. So we'll be on top of it.
And we will, once we spot those trees, we will get the approval from the borough arborist on those locations.
Mr. Bytel, the contracts from the tree contractor and the insurance certificates for the work being done in the public park. Can you make sure Mr. Metric has a copy of all that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll make
Especially the
sure
insurance certificates.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
we'll make sure that the landscape contractor provides that information for the borough. Any other questions?
None. Look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right, moving on to item F, motion to approve the extension of the Chestnut Street Garage Pollinator Garden.
Hello, me again. I'm covering this tonight on behalf of John O'Brien, who I haven't heard confirm. He's a new dad, so congratulations to John.
Do you know what he named that baby?
What?
I'll leave off the bottom of it. Flynn O'Brien.
Really?
Yeah, I love it.
Huh.
Didn't spell it exactly the same way, but it's what it sounds like.
I'm sure it's in your honor, Bernie. So if you've been to Chestnut Street Garage, you've noticed the work led by the BID and Westchester Green Team last year on the north side, a beautiful pollinator garden installed last year. They'd like to extend that to the east side, which is the picture of the left there. It's nothing but Japanese barberry plants, which are not native and known for harboring ticks. I'm not sure we have that problem in the borough, but suffice to say there's no loss in removing the existing landscaping. So I talked to John about this. The only ask of the borough is really in kind. Probably need about an hour of public works assistance clearing out what's there. And they ask if we could provide mulch from our compost site the day of. I asked a couple things that we have something in writing saying that the bid is ultimately responsible for the maintenance of the garden moving forward, that the planting day that they're going to have be open to volunteers outside the green team so the borough can put it out and solicit volunteers from elsewhere in the community. And then lastly, any signage or PR associated with the project acknowledge the borough as a partner, which didn't quite happen last year. So that's the proposal. There's no financial ask.
Looks great. Thank you.
Yep.
Item G, motion to approve the Goose Creek cleanup scheduled for March 25th.
Good evening. March 25th, the CRC Watershed Association plans on doing their annual Goose Creek cleanup. For the last 15 or so years, we've been partnering with them to keep our streams clean. Courtney Finneran is the lead person with the CRC Association. All we need to do is provide them with a trash truck and 2 borough employees. Once they clean up the streams from debris such as construction material, tires, it could be anything at this point in time. Our guys go around and clean up the different bags and trash at different culverts and parts of the stream. That's pretty much what we do with the association. And we, like I said, we've been doing it for over the last 15 years. So it's no real cost to us other than maybe some fuel and a few guys that come out there and clean up.
Excellent. Thank you. Will, does that give us MS4 points? Awesome.
Any questions? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yep, you're welcome.
Finally, item H, approve the February 2023 meeting minutes. Mr. Flynn. 3-0. Is there any other business? Yes, Mr. Bytel. We look forward to hearing your annual report for the Tree Commission.
Jeff Bytel. I'm here with my hat on as the chair of the Tree Commission. I want to apologize that this is the first report we have given you. In the time I've been chair, we've been delinquent in our responsibilities, but here I'm trying to catch up and trying to keep it going forward. I think you may not have, I have copies of it here I can pass out as well. Basically, just the background is, what we're here for, and I think you all know what we're here for. We only have control really over trees that are in the street right away, or public trees, which is really a pretty small percentage of all the trees in the borough. So we only really have control over those. We would like to work with the borough in the ordinance to try to enhance what we can do with heritage trees, make people aware of the value of them, try to identify them throughout the entire borough, and then maybe just give them minimal protection, such as if someone wants to chop them down, we maybe can talk to them about ways to save them, or is there a way we can save the tree? But you can see all the things we've done. Obviously, we have really tried to aggressively get trees planted in the borough, and you guys have been very cooperative with us in that regard, and we appreciate that. The one thing that is a little bit of a concern to me and the Tree Commission is that the first year care of the trees is very important. And we've had times where the trees have been a little bit late getting in the ground, and then they're dying because they're not getting properly watered over the really dry months in the summer. And to me, that's just a real waste of the money that we're spending. So I'd like to try to see that, working with the new Public Works Director, that we get the trees planted at the right times, don't hold up those plantings so we get them in the ground and they do have some benefit of the natural water that's being provided for us, hopefully. But also during the pandemic, we actually, we got a lot of help from Public Works in watering some of the new trees, and that was helpful. But now they're back doing a lot of the other things they need to do. But I'm hoping that we may be able to come up with a care plan, a first-year care plan for all the trees we're planting, because otherwise, like I said, we're kind of wasting our money. We do lose it. We do lose them, to vandalism and things like that, cars running over them. Can't stop that. But I mean, I think we've got in here that our loss, the estimated mortality rate for the last 400 public trees was 20%, which is it's not horrible, but anything we can do to, kind of beef that number up and get it up so we don't have as many lost trees. I think the one thing that we'd like everyone to understand is the state of our tree cover in the borough. We're losing it pretty rapidly. We've got a lot of aging out trees. We've got diseases that are coming in. The climate's changing a little bit. So we're losing a lot of our big trees. And these really large trees that are coming down, you can plant 200 trees and you're barely making up for one of these big trees coming down. So we've estimated that we currently have about 2,915 street trees, which is a canopy cover of 18%. The American Forestry Society Equity Ratings said that we should strive for something between 40 and 50. Probably about maybe 20, 30 years ago, we probably had about in that 40% range. So we are definitely losing canopy, and it's a concern. So we really would like to try to get some educational aspects of our mission happening as well, reaching out to the community so that they understand the importance of our street trees and try to get more people to be interested in planting them. We do some outreach, but one thing, we don't have a budget for even producing any materials for outreach. We did create a hub, a tree hub that is part of the website, and we put up a lot of informational things, but somebody's got to go to that. We would like to reach out to, in our tree planting efforts, we have gone to what are really vacant blocks, deserts, and we're trying to get people to plant. And we get some pushback, some people who don't want a tree, they don't want leaves, they don't like trees. But if we can have some of these materials that we can hand out to people and really explain it maybe further in depth, it would be great. Because then we can explain the economic values even to them of the property values, reduces their cooling costs, all kinds of things that happen with street trees. So, that's one thing that we'd love to see happen. I have a section in here. Hopefully you get a chance to read this. Some of the future goals. I would really like to see whether we could increase the size of the tree commission to 7. When I first got on it, it was 3. And I sat on there as a unappointed interested party. And we did up it, I guess, about 6 years ago to 5. Unfortunately, because it is volunteer, I sometimes as chair have a hard time even getting quorum. So if I had more members, I could maybe have a better chance of getting the quorum. And then we'd have more people to actually do some of these outreach things and just even do some of the work that we need to do, to write reports and get things back to the borough like we're supposed to. The other thing that we would love to do is we really want to try to get a better pruning program done. It's really important for our young trees to get corrective pruning done at an early stage, because if you don't, then you start getting a tree that is growing and it's getting shoots that are too big and it's misformed, and it's not going to be a good street tree. So I really would like to see us establish more of a program for this initial care, first year, then the let's call it the adolescent care, where we do some corrective pruning to our trees. And then that also then goes into the adult phase, where we've got to establish a better program of getting the pruning done so we don't have hazardous limbs that are too low, that are getting in the way of people getting in their cars, because then they just yank off they just break it off, and it's really detrimental to the trees. So pruning is very important. And I think we have to get more of an emphasis on that. So, other than that, I think that we have to do, Bernie, you'll appreciate this. We had a major push in the business district a couple of years ago. Now we have a number of trees up there that are dead, that haven't been removed, some that have been removed, and the wells have not been improved enough that we can plant in it. And that's what everybody sees when they come to Westchester, as our downtown. I think we have to really do a push again, Bernie, to get those dead trees removed. When we condemn a tree, people have 90 days. We've got to get better. We have to be better on top of people. We have trees out there that they don't take down. Now we are taking them down. Years ago, the people had to take it down. So what was their incentive to spend money? Now we have to take it down. So we have to follow up more on getting the dead trees down, but in the business district, getting those wells improved, getting them planted, and getting them taken care of so they don't just die again. So those are that's kind of the high points of what I have in the report. Hopefully you'll read it. And if you have any questions, you can always contact me or any member of the Tree Commission. We would welcome your input.
Yeah, Mr. Metrick, under boards and commissions, there's normally money sitting in there for the boards and commissions to use for appropriate things. So if you reach out to Mr. Metrick,
Okay.
and give him a request, there is money there.
There is some
for your
money.
Literatures, right.
Okay.
And I agree with you, the Market Street corridor is a mess. And Gay Street still looks strong, but even though they're very old. But the way the visitors, because I wouldn't think residents would hurt a tree. Visitors destroy the trees. It's a disgrace along Market Street.
Right.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. And
So
I
we got part of your request handled pretty rapidly.
Yes. And I will say that I just walked up I guess it's North Church Street, and I can see that a pruning crew had gone up through there and had really done a nice job on a lot of the trees in there. And we need to kind of have a comprehensive strategy for pruning different blocks and keeping up with the pruning of the trees. So
The arborist is on your committee,
right.
so put him to work.
We've had some difficulties in him being able to get the tree contractor to perform adequately, but I believe with the new public work director, we can form a team that we can get these things done.
It's a bright new day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Bytel, I just have a few questions. So you have potential planning locations of 1,000. So do you have specific locations, or is that just an estimate?
No, there's actually a list, which I think Don referred to, that has been identified. These are all empty wells. There's also abandoned wells that we really should be reopening, because before we rewrote the code, there was nothing in there to tell people that they couldn't close a well in. So people just closed wells in. But I think we need to forcefully start to reopen some of those wells, especially in the business district, so that we can start getting trees back where they need to go. But this list has been, it's a comprehensive list. There's an enormous amount of sites located on there. And the way we choose our plantings, we have requests, and they go to the top. Somebody's asking for a tree, they go to the top. And then we also have trees that need to be replaced because a tree came down. That's in our code now, that if the tree comes down, a replacement has to go in. So you have those as your top categories. Then we get into the blocks that are delinquent. I mean, they're vacant, there's nothing there. And we have what's called equity ratings for particular neighborhoods and blocks. And if they have no trees, well, obviously they get a really terrible rating. So we are trying to get into those neighborhoods and get more trees planted. So out of those, that's how we prioritize. And then, of course, when we go out there, if there are site restraints because there's underground utilities, a gas line, electric lines, whatever, water. Sometimes we have sites that are almost impossible to plant. But that's how we do it. And we have this list. It's huge. So, I mean, we could be planting trees, you know, for 5, 6 years and never get to the end of that list.
You have a goal of 200 and you've been doing about 100? What would it take?
No, the goal is 200 per year. So we're doing like 100 in the spring and 100 in the fall. I think we missed the fall planting for whatever reason we missed that planting. But the goal is 200 trees. That's what we came up with. We said, it sounded great when we said 1,000 trees in 5 years. But if you read further into this, we're barely making a dent in the replacement.
So we have a budget for 200 trees a year.
Yes, we're trying to maintain that. We would like to work with the Public Works Director to come up with a budget that maybe is a little bit more scientifically based on what the borough's priorities may be for the urban forest, because it really has just kind of been a rolling budget that hasn't really been based on a whole lot other than, oh, well, it was this last year, you know, we'll make it this year, maybe we'll bump it a little bit. But I'm not sure that that's really getting us what we need to do for the planting, the care, the pruning, you know, to really try to make a dent, because we are definitely losing ground. Sometimes I feel like the boy with his finger in the dike, you know, it's like, seems like the water is coming out of there and it's, you know, so we're not keeping up with the loss. So.
Thank you. I appreciate the report, everything you guys do. In terms of changing it from 5 to 7 member commission, how does that work?
It would be an ordinance amendment to the administrative code.
Anyone opposed to that? I'm not opposed to it, so. 9. 7 is good.
Mr. McCoy, to Mr. Vitale's point, we plant trees all over the borough every year. And there are green gator bags that Public Works goes around diligently and fills these gator bags. They're slow release water bags. And what happens is closer to the university, they get squashed a lot because the kids walking down and they just squash them. But if we had a definite plan to say, like, we're going to work in the Market Street corridor and put all our efforts in the Market Street corridor other than the ones who want the trees, we could be actually probably more successful in maintaining them for the first year and a half, you know, instead of jumping all over the borough. So.
Yeah, I adopt a tree. They treat it like somebody said, people don't like trees. Who does not like a tree? That's like not liking a puppy.
We've had people come in and complain about the trees in front of their house, even when they're perfectly done.
Well, with that, any other questions or comments on tree
The
commission?
committee
annual report?
making a recommendation based upon that.
I'd like to recommend that we change the ordinance to enlarge the tree commission to 7.
I'll second. 3-0. Good evening.
Good evening. Darrell Cook, South Walnut Street. Is there any credit given for heritage street trees in the borough?
I believe there is right now, if it's not a street tree, correct?
I think it's if we take it down.
No,
And the water.
there is a stream protection fee credit. I actually applied and got 3 of my trees certified. So
You're opening a can of worms with Mr. Cook.
I am.
Yeah. His second more trees.
So there is a credit. If it's on private property, well, if it's a public street tree, I'm sure you get it certified as well as a heritage tree. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that you get a credit back on the stream protection fee if you plant the new street tree, the one that's not being required to be replaced because you took one down. But if you're planting a new one, I do believe that there's a stream protection fee credit for that too, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, Mr. Cook's tree is a sycamore tree, which is absolutely gorgeous and majestic. And it's ruined the sidewalk 3 times and now his roof.
Right.
And he's been trying to get rid of that sycamore tree for 6 years that I've known him.
Oh, I'm well aware.
Yeah, and now he's looking for money he wants us to pay him to have the sycamore tree on his property. So
Well, there's a credit on the stream protection fee.
very little. on that
Yeah, it's not huge, but there is a credit. And I think that, residents of the borough need to understand that they are contributing to the borough with their trees in aesthetic value, economic value, environmental value. So the tree commission will sign it.
All right, thank you very much. It is 7:15. We will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.